Thanks. So, what I'll talk about today is really the role of seaweeds in the marine park. Now, we currently see them almost entirely negatively. They overgrow our reefs, outcompete corals. They're a real menace. But instead, if we start to actively manage the cultivation of these seaweeds, we shift it to the off-reef environment, we can start to see them as a really beneficial tool that we can use to start addressing this nutrient enrichment problem that is currently impacting the GBR. So nutrient enrichment really has a pervasive effect on the health of the ecosystem and really acts to amplify the severity of almost all the other stresses. So it's been estimated that we've increased the supply of total nitrogen by around 3 to 6 times, total phosphorus by 3 to 9 times, relative to pre-European levels. Now, there's pretty good evidence to support nutrient enrichment as one of the primary drivers behind the outbreaks of crown and thorn starfish, which to this day, on a system-wide scale, are still one of the main causes of outright coral mortality. Nutrients also increase the abundance of fouling communities, which have detrimental effects. And some of the more recent work is also finding credible links between nutrients and the bleaching risk of a coral. There's a suggestion that a high nitrogen environment can reduce the thermal tolerance of a coral by around 1 to 2 degrees. Now, all of this nitrogen originates on the land, and this is where we try to fix it today by implementing and improving farm and land management practices. Now, these are all important, don't get me wrong, but I think we do need to acknowledge that agriculture will always be a leaky system, especially in the context where we're trying to maximise crop yields. And I think it's also fair to say that these land-based initiatives have only had limited success in terms of getting to our targets on water quality. So I think it's worth exploring the possibilities for other solutions that can complement these. So this is really just a visual of the nitrogen problem that GBR has. So this is from a recent paper by Wolf et al. This is wet season data for dissolved inorganic nitrogen for each of these 3 years. There's 151 days of data on each plot, so it does start to represent what the average day-to-day conditions are on these reefs during the wet season. So in these figures, anything that's a colour blue is pretty good. Anything that's an orange to a dark red is fairly bad conditions if you're a coral. So if we just look at that first plot on the left, 2010, 2011, this was a wet year, so we had a lot of river discharge, and you get this corresponding strong orange-red signal all the way down the coast out to the mid-shelf reefs. If you move to the next 2 years, these weren't wet years. One was average, one was actually a dry year. But despite this, we're still getting a fairly strong red signal, especially around these population centres and agricultural areas. So I think this really confirms that what we probably already know, that the GBR does have a nitrogen problem. It is a chronic stressor, and it's not just limited to acute periods around major flood events. So this is what we do at the Centre for Macroalgal Resources and Biotechnology. So we work with industry to develop algal-based bioremediation solutions that can target both fresh and marine environments. So these solutions are commercially relevant, they need to generate revenue and be self-sustaining through time. So this is just a model of what we do for industry. This is for municipal wastewater, but you can really substitute any industry here, primary production industry that generates a point source discharge. But for municipal wastewater, what we do is we'll come in behind to complement the existing operations and infrastructure. So where previously the effluent might have been discharged straight to the environment, now it moves through an algal cultivation system, whereby the nitrogen and phosphorus is assimilated by the algae and converted into biomass that can then be reused. So industry likes this approach for several reasons, but primarily they see it as an efficient, effective and scalable technology. And they also really like that it delivers the biomass as a product, as it enables them to get a secondary bite and generate a secondary revenue stream. But the take home about algal remediation is that it's a very transparent solution, as all of the nitrogen, phosphorus and carbon that is assimilated by the biomass is easily tracked through the process using something as simple as a mass balance. So just going back to this figure briefly, all the work that we've done to date is really focused on point sources on land, but we know that a lot of this nitrogen that enters the GBR does so through diffuse pathways, and these point source fixes are going to be largely ineffective to fix this. Now, it's kind of interesting, all the nitrogen's on the land where it's useful, and it only really becomes majorly problematic when it enters this nearshore coastal zone. So if we could develop technology now that we could put in the water to recover this nitrogen, I think we would go a long way towards starting to reduce the nutrient concentrations and starting to get closer to hitting these water quality targets. So the extensive production of seaweed is not a novel technology. It's already practiced throughout much of the world. And globally, this industry is worth about $6 billion US a year. I'll just give an example from China now, which is pretty illuminating. So in China, seaweeds are grown as a crop in their own right. And you can just see the increasing production through time on this chart here on the right. And annually now they produce around about 2 million tonnes dry weight a year. And this is cultivated in an area of about 1,250 square kilometres, so fairly substantial. But here's where it gets interesting. The seaweed industry in China is so large now that it unintentionally provides a very significant bioremediation service to the coastal zone. And annually now, it pulls out about 75,000 tonnes of nitrogen and 9,500 tonnes of phosphorus from this coastal zone each year. So we can do the same thing for the GBR, but we flip this model around. So we grow seaweeds primarily for their bioremediation services, and the secondary benefit is the biomass that is created can be reused, and that kind of starts to help make the whole economic model viable. So if we did want to implement something like this on the GBR, what were the steps that we would need to do? So first thing, we would need to identify candidate species. There are quite a few to choose from, but generally species within the genus Sargassum are probably going to be the most likely. There's many endemic species, they're known to have high growth rates, they're currently found in reefs, and generally they've got a really good tolerance to the prevailing environmental conditions. Now, secondly, and probably most importantly, we need to domesticate the candidate species. And closing the life cycle is really key, as it lets you produce propagules, seed grow-out structures on demand, such that you've always got biomass out in the water, growing and uptaking nutrients. So you start to get a year-round service. And finally, we need to identify the locations where you want to implement this technology. Now, we are in some ways lucky, because just about anywhere on this figure here does provide a suitable nitrogen environment where you could grow seaweeds at scale. Now, if we did implement this, what kind of scale would we need to have any meaningful effect? So we can use the Reef 2050 plan as a bit of a guide here. So the 2018 target was for a 50% reduction in end of catchment dissolved inorganic nitrogen relative to a 2009 baseline. We're a long way from that currently, but roughly this involves pulling out about 5,000 tonnes of nitrogen from the system each year. Now, there's a few things about algal production that we do know. So on a per square kilometre basis, we'd be producing somewhere in the order of about 1,600 tonnes dry weight a year. And in this biomass, that'd be about 25 to 32 tonnes of nitrogen. So a simple calculation here, if we want to pull out 5,000 tonnes of nitrogen from the system, we would need to grow the seaweeds in about 150 to 200 square kilometres. Now, I'm sure this sounds scarily large, but to put it in context, it only represents 0.04 to 0.05% of the total area of the marine park. And I think it's worth kind of pointing out here that firstly, the nitrogen problem the GBR has is relatively large. The Great Barrier Reef itself is a very large ecosystem. So any solution that we implement to fix this problem will need to be correspondingly large for it to have any meaningful effect. So in conclusion, I'll just leave you with this schematic of the concept. This is simplified, but what we're talking about is a relatively simple process. And really all we're doing is using the innate abilities of seaweeds to grow fast when nitrogen, carbon and sunlight are available. and the GBR has all of these in excess. Now, the cultivation of seaweeds is a proven technology, and all we're doing is adapting these techniques to suit our local environment and some of the limitations around working in the marine park. But importantly, this is a very scalable solution, and you can start rolling this out up and down the coastline, where you can recover these new inputs of nitrogen from the land, but you can also start to mop up some of the old nitrogen that is just floating around the system. Now, seaweeds alone are not going to be a silver bullet, but I think they can be a very valuable tool, and when you use them in conjunction with these land-based initiatives to reduce the supply side of nitrogen, you start to come up with a pretty powerful mechanism through which you can drive change, hit these water quality targets, and start to restore the GBR to a nutrient healthier state, where it is more likely to be able to accommodate some of the larger external stresses which are harder to fix directly. Thanks.